You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 on Instagram and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold. Today it's our pleasure to welcome Dan Morgan of Morgan & Morgan for the People. Dan grew up in the family firm, starting in the call center at 17, and has worked nearly every job there. Now a trial lawyer with major verdicts, including an $11 million wrongful death case. He also leads Morgan & Morgan's referral business, drives national marketing and sports partnerships, and even serves as an NBA agent and co-owner of Lift Sports Management with Mike Miller. Go Celtics. Dan, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming in.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, man, super cool to meet you and have you in. And there's so much to talk about. I went over the website. By the way, the website's really good. I went to the website today, and not like my little old opinion matters with your huge law firm, but you got your dad on there from way back when. Your video is pretty sweet. I'll get to a couple things that you said on there. But I think it's a really a good piece. It's really very engaging.
Well, yeah, shout out to our content team there, Hani. She's kind of been revamping that for us and really honing it in. It's wild how much goes into the details of just curved corners or straight corners and this shade of blue, that shade of blue. This one looks better. This one's popping more. So it's definitely a full team effort. But yeah, they're curating it. It's looking good.
Totally. So you literally grew up inside of one of the most recognizable law firms in America. So tell us what it was like being around Morgan & Morgan from such a young age.
Yeah, I really did kind of see it, from the infancy to where it is now. I was actually, born in '89 and the firm launched in December of '88. So, it was around 3 months older than I am. So I really saw, the whole life cycle of everything, from, my whole life. I pretty much have a memory of us at least advertising on TV or, being on billboards and kind of being in that space and having somewhat, a little bit more attention in school. Well, that's their dad's on the billboard, et cetera, et cetera. Back then it was kind of unspoken. That's when lawyer advertising was really first starting to get going. So there's a few of those in town, but then it was from probably, those are the early years of kindergarten, first grade. Then around second, third grade is really when it kind of grow mode started. And we kind of went to Tampa, or, my dad launched in Tampa,
right,
and then Jacksonville. And then there was, before it was Morgan & Morgan, it was called Morgan, Conn and Gilbert.
Okay.
So then around sometime there was, the schism of we're going to Georgia, old partners were tired of growing. They wanted to kind of, we're done. We want to just keep kind of getting our distributions now. My dad's like, no, the money we're making, we're going to pour into Atlanta, and then we're going to go to DC, and then we're going to go to Philly, and then we're going to go to New York, and then we're going to go to Boston. And they were kind of like, no mas, we want off we went off this ride, so to speak. So around that time is when they kind of broke it off and did Morgan & Morgan. And then, yeah, it's really been, let's see, in 2004, 2005-ish, it's probably early high school when really kind of, we made the launches up to at least planting flags in the Northeast. I started in the call center shortly after that, more as an investigator there back before we had the DocuSign clients. We used to drive out to their houses with our sign-up packets and sit in the living room, and I would go over the contracts with them and explain the case process and bring those files home and input them in our old systems and, case assigned to lawyers and all that jazz. And yeah, and then obviously law school, had internships, glorified paralegal, so to speak. And that's really what I was my first 2-3 years even practicing was glorified paralegal work, learning how to work the case up, get the case set up right, and then eventually try my own cases.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. What else can I ask? Damn, that's a lot, man. Going back to like kind of scaling to different states, what I liked, and actually you said this in your video on the website, is like you want to be everywhere for everybody, right?
Everyone.
Like
Yep. Everywhere for everyone.
tell me what you mean by that.
So it's really just being able, and it comes to my referral business too, because obviously we're in 25, 26 states now, but we have lawyers in all 50. We're licensed in all 50, class actions, mass torts, certain case types we take in all 50. But personal injury, car accident cases, we may not take in all 50. If your mom or your friend's mom gets rear-ended in Wyoming's right now, we might service them and get them to a lawyer that we do handle and we do work for, and that they know if they call Morgan and Morgan, no matter where they are in America, we can at least get them situated. We can at least get them handled. We can work the case as if it was our mom's case. And if we're not working it ourselves, we would get it to the people we would be getting the case to if that was our mom, that, whether it be a car accident or a
Right.
medical malpractice, or, we're even now even looking at trying to help different referral, not smaller types of law, but, like criminal law and family law and immigration law that we get tons of call volume
Right.
for. But it's really, right now we kind of say, hey, it's not what we do. We can try to help you find a name, but to actually get a system where if you call us anywhere you are in America, that Morgan and Morgan can help you out no matter what the situation is. That's kind of the ethos that we're striving for.
That's amazing. Did you ever, did your firm have any piece of like getting like sort of like not the trend, but like how you refer cases? Like, did you guys have anything to do with that? I'm kind of new at it too.
Yeah,
Like the way that they could call you anywhere and like you can help another attorney out or they can just dish it off to you to take to trial.
yes and no. I mean, it's kind of organically, when we were advertising as much as we were in as many states as we were, there was kind of bleed over calls that were coming in, especially in our early expansion days, when we were going from like Florida to Georgia and then we went to Tennessee, you're getting calls from all the side states like the Carolinas and the Arkansas and Mississippi. And eventually we grew our own organization. So we saw the call volume was there that justified we could handle our own lawyers there and our own caseloads there. But it really kind of just started off by a byproduct of, hey, these people are calling us. We know these are good cases. We know there's, that if we're working these the right way, there would be value here. Instead of telling them, sorry, we don't handle cases
Right.
in Tennessee or, in North Carolina. Hey, good news. We have good partners we work with in North Carolina. We'll take care of the intake process. We'll manage the case, make sure it's being worked the right way, and get you to the attorney. So my dad always kind of had that kind of mindset that he was, being
Yep.
able, if we weren't going to be the ones that are handling it, to get it to the right person that is going to handle it. So, we kind of started all that back when we started, the software that he did called Litify was probably like in the
Right.
2015 range, I would say. But yeah, I really got more involved in the referral game probably around COVID is
Okay.
when, the courts shut down. So it's kind of what I started to try to fill my time with what else is there to do. So
Yeah.
really kind of got into the garage on the referral business and just seeing what we were doing right and what we were doing wrong on a lot of things on both inbound and outbound. And cases internally that we were turning down that we didn't think was a case, but our own attorneys were like, well, if we don't think it's a case or we're not handling it, why would we refer this case out? Even at the intake stage of it, if our intake agent was saying this isn't a case that we want to handle, it was kind of just dying on the vine. But that same client, I was hearing stories of, Morgan, I called them, they said no. I called this firm, they said yes, and then I got a good settlement. So it's like, how do we make sure that doesn't happen? How do we make sure that even if it's a case and we're not handling, that we make sure that we at least try to get them help, we try to get them service. So yeah, now even on our case that we're turning down in Florida, we get about 15% of those signed up
Wow.
by outside law firms now. So it's really just, and again, those were calls that we paid for the marketing, we paid for the phone to ring, we had our brand out there, but we were then saying, sorry, we can't help you. We don't think that case is good enough, or or whatever the facts is. Click. That customer, that client is gone forever. They're probably never going to call us back. At least now we can say, hey, this might not be a case for us, but be a good partner of ours that handles these types of cases
Yeah.
against
Sure.
whatever it could be. They specialize in low impact or, dog bite cases that didn't break the skin. That might not be for us, but this guy's done a good job and can get you something, meet so and so. And then if they get 10, 15K, at least they're like, hey, I called more and more and they couldn't help me, but they at least got me to
Yeah,
someone
yeah,
that
for
did.
sure. And that probably has to do a lot with maybe like retraining your intake people, or having like a different process, maybe like for them
Oh
to be able
yeah.
to see different things.
We're going through it right now with our own attorneys. I mean, obviously, the intake department is kind of the first layer of it, but even with our attorneys now, when they're making the decision that, hey, this isn't a case that I'm going to, I worked it for 5, 6 months, and for whatever reason, it has to be a turn down, whether it's client control or if they're upside down or if the liability wasn't what we thought it was or the coverage isn't what it thought it was or just for whatever reason, instead of having that conversation with the client saying, no, unfortunately, this isn't a case that we're going to help you out anymore, which, we're happy and at least say, hey, train the attorney to tell them, do you want me to help you find someone that I think will take this case on? So at least if I'm saying we can help you, you're not on an island starting all over,
Right.
can we make that handoff for you? Um, so yeah, it's retraining their thought process too. Because again, as you've talked to as many lawyers as anybody, when we deal with it, there's an ego to it, especially like with plaintiff attorneys and trial attorneys. If this
Right.
is the case, and I don't think it's a case, trust me, it's not a case. No one knows better than me. I'm the
Yeah.
so and so attorney, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
but I mean, we've had, again, stories. A good one is, we had and again, when I'm referring cases out that I think have merit to it, I don't just send it to one firm and they tell me no and I'm done. I send it to 3 or 4 firms. So we had a case that came in. Guy was going up a stairwell. He fell backwards. The intake says I was walking upstairs. I lost my footing, fell backwards, and re-injured my back. We came into our intake center, didn't meet the threshold for injuries for whatever reason on our end. It got turned down. We then referred it out to another firm that said no, another firm that said no, a third firm said yes. And 65 days, less than 3 months later, that firm that we sent it to got the case settled for $1 million
Wow.
because it was a straight code violation. They went to the site. The pitch of the stairs was out of code, and the rail wasn't securely the fasten it was. They made a demand for policy limits of the structure, which was $1 million policy. The guy had a fusion surgery at the hospital following the thing, and they saw just pay and again, we made, good money on that referral from
Wow.
making sure it didn't die on the vine. But then it also helped us now go back and retrain our intake and our lawyers. Like, hey, look what you just, did, so to speak. But, this case called, you said no, and all these other firms also said no. This firm said yes, and here they are now. And,
So what? So
plaintiff
what?
has.
So you call the firm, you like tell them the facts, what happened, and they'll tell you yes or no. Like you don't just give them the case, right? Like
Oh
because you
yeah,
want to.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, here's a file with
Yeah.
client's
Yeah.
name, cold call. And again, there's firms out there that do that because they send us leads and like, hey, this is a referral for you. The client, then we'll call the client sometimes. Like, why are you calling me? We're like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
going on here. We thought this was already a warm transfer. So we definitely don't just call out to clients without we call a warm transfer. So if
Sure.
they say yes, then we get the client on the phone, we get the new firm on the phone, we make the meeting, and kind of do it from there. But yeah, essentially it's like, hey, we have a case that came in. Here's the fact pattern. Is this one you want or no? And again, same way that we said no, they kind of looked at it and they're saying in real time because we want firms to give us an answer in 24 hours.
Yeah.
It's something you're going to investigate or not investigate. When I took over before COVID, the average response time on a case was like 4 days,
Wow.
which
Right.
you're losing. And then you see what our conversion rate was on that, and you're going to lose the case because if someone's calling for a serious case, they want an answer
You're
like
gonna go somewhere else.
mostly, yeah. If you say I'll give you, you might buy an hour, 2 hours of time sometimes. But yeah, I mean, if you're waiting more than 24 hours, they're going to pick up the phone and call the next guy in well, not the phone book anymore because they don't use that, but the next guy on the
Right.
Google,
Right.
the
Right.
Google SEOs, who's ever paying for the number 2 spot's going to get the phone
That's
call.
right. So like, what do you think makes the difference between like that fourth lawyer that took the case to that of the guy that fell off the ladder or the stairs versus the person who was just like, we're not doing it.
I mean, honestly, hunger. I call them my junkyard dogs.
Yeah.
It's easy for our attorneys at Morgan to just think I'm going to wake up in the morning, I'm going to get cases that are going to come to me. And like yesterday in Florida alone, we'll have signed up like over 300 personal injury cases.
Wow.
And that's just Florida. So, we have our attorneys there that are somewhat, my dad can sometimes call it a free refill problem where they have, they don't like the Sprite at Crystals. When you get it, you just dump the whole thing out and then go and get the soda. You're not worried about the soda because you got a fountain machine in front of you. It's not yours. Someone else is paying for the fountain machine. But he's like, no, we're paying for the syrup. We're not going to let our attorneys or our staff or our case managers dump out our Sprite or our soda. We
Right.
want to make sure that it's on. But no, it really comes down to these firms that, we identify firms that get good results, that try cases, that take on tough liability cases. So that's obviously the first hurdle to get over because and there's really obviously good marketing firms out there too that take cases all the way, but they kind of have the same problem too, that they get a lot of phone calls or more phone calls where if more and more calls when we say, hey, so and so, do you want this case from us? They're like, of course not. If you don't want it, why would we want it? So that's kind of the
That's
first
true.
hurdle to get over. Yeah, I mean, we get that all the time. Why would I want? And I tell them the same. They get confused too. I'm like, well, then send me your turn downs. And they're like, wait, what? I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
you're not. Let me scrape through it too, because you probably have some diamonds in there that if you're disregarding all this stuff, there's probably some stuff that I can look at. So it's really trying to get, different lawyers and partners to kind of work on the same page. But, there's a lot of, people that we call competitors in the space that
Sure.
I'm very friendly with. We share notes with, we go back and forth with, like, Top Dog, and he's one of the bigger national advertisers. He's a referral first model right now. He handles his own cases. I think he's looking to integrate more into a fully vertical model. But again, it's just being able to talk to those people, see what they're going through, what they're dealing with, and then trade notes too. Like, oh wait, you're sending to multiple people. I'm like, yeah, I'm sending to three or four. Well, I'm sending to one, and if they don't take it, I figured it's not a case. So, okay, we'll build a waterfall system for you where you can score them and rank them. And, sometimes you might have we
Yeah.
have firms that tell us, turn it off. We don't, you're sending us too much stuff that we're not taking that we don't want. We're like, it's,
Really.
you type it into our algorithm and, you're off that, whatever the case type is. And we have other ones that are begging for more. Like, hey, I hear you're sitting your turn downs in Georgia to other like lawyers that are recovering for you. Give me a shot. I'll do better. I'll work harder.
And these are
So
the cases that you talked about earlier, like maybe like a low impact case that you guys don't think you could take
yeah,
a shot or maximize or
it could be a liability dispute. It
okay.
could be he said, she said type of thing too. Or, it's just like, hey, we got two red lights and we have inventory issues ourselves sometimes. We have our own where we kind of have to start making the decision. Does it make sense for us right now to take on more of these cases, make sure we're focusing on our high value, catastrophic type cases if stuff's coming in? Because again, like any business, you have supply and demand and staffing issues. So we can see some offices that if they're really cranking and not enough lawyers, then we start referring a lot of good stuff out sometimes. And some of our earlier offices, like New York and Boston, where we didn't have as many lawyers as we do now, so more was referring out. But now we have great pipelines of recurring income because cases that we referred out 4 or 5 years ago are being paid today.
Who tracks all that? Is it up to the attorney or is it up to the paralegal or is it up to like the
Yeah, I have a whole team now. Yeah, it's like,
okay, yeah, I was gonna say
yeah.
like
So
that's
like, and we have inbound and outbound as well. So, my outbound team, that's the people that are actually sitting the cases out that
yep.
we're kind of talking about that model. I mean, that's a team of like 12 of us now. And there's done by regions and admins. We have a whole finance guy that's tracking the fees on, I hired a buddy of mine that came in. He was in the accounting background because I was the same way. I feel like people aren't paying us what we're owed. I feel like there's just so much out there. Like, how do we know what's what? His first week on the job, he found $1.3 million in unpaid, referral fees of just like
Really.
low hanging fruit of just really just scraping and looking at
That have
our
been settled like known to be settled, like
that are known
you
to be settled. Yeah, we called a few firms on it because there's a way we've been using AI strategically, but pretty much seeing, all right, these are cases that we referred out. The court system has said there's been either a dismissal or a judgment entered. So we know they're done, but it says the case is still open in our system. Start calling these lawyers on these cases. Like, hey, we
wow.
we saw the Jones matter had a dismissal. What's going on? Oh yeah, we settled that, in May for $350,000. All right, well, you owe us 40,000 then. Oh yeah, we'll get that right over to you. Sorry about
Right.
that.
Do you think
We,
they were purposely they were like, oh, Morgan
of
and Morgan, they're
course,
not
like how do they
yeah,
know? They're not tracking this. We never heard
right.
about it. Like we got
Wow. And that would
but
be like
yeah.
such a big deal to like a small
Oh,
like a
of
guy. You
course.
know what I
Yeah, I
mean?
mean,
Like
we've had, yeah, exactly. I mean, the right case or the right, I mean, we had the biggest referral fee we had this year was obviously a terrible case. It was a birth injury out of Philadelphia, but our referral fee that we received was $8 million. So that's one case that, could be the the NOI for an entire good sized firm for a
Oh
year. So,
yeah,
like if
that's
you have
crazy.
that, one case can do that, but yeah, you have people out there that just don't know or aren't tracking the right way, or you send a med mal case and kind of forget about it because those take 5 years,
Yeah, sure.
and then say, hey, they haven't heard from them about this case in 2 years, 3 years. All right, maybe it's gone forever, and I can save it 25 to 40% of the fee and just pocket it. But yeah, I mean, we had one firm that said, I was like, why didn't you, they're the worst offender. I was like, why didn't you send this money to us? He's like, well, you never requested it. I was like, well, how are we going to
Oh,
request it
oh.
if we don't know? Like, you're selling the case. Like, why would we request it? So, um,
Do you do agreements, like written agreements and all that?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, again, we do have things we're supposed to be tracking and auditing, but when I took over, we weren't doing the job we should have been as far as tracking what was out there. Now
Yep.
it's we got to fine tune. Like I said, we're incorporating AI that's doing live
Yep.
auditing. We're trying to do performance management, making sure that if we're sending cases out to the right firms, it's being managed the right way, that they're getting to competent doctors and there's being, calls are being responded to. If they're calling their case staff to a firm that we send to in Montana, that we can see in real time if they haven't answered their client call in 2 or 3 times, that the client can let us know so we can kind of
Sure. Yeah.
crack the whip and say, hey, you like doing business with us? Well, call our clients back or else you're going to be on our do not use list.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. So like just to jump off that for a second, that's really interesting stuff to me because I would love to
For sure.
start doing something like that around here, man. Like just at like a little, like on a little
Exactly. I
level.
mean, it's where you just start with one person, just figure out because again, you get the one case, one right case, that
Yep.
job pays for itself.
I know.
And it's
I
just
know.
about, just trying to manage it because you don't, that's where I was making a lot of my money was my personal generating. So I was
Yeah.
like, we can scale this the right way. It's just, again, people get lost in the weeds of doing the serious work, but because you lose the front of it where it's like, I'm too busy to talk to you right now on this case. I have to go to trial. I'm in trial next week. I have depositions, talk to the intake, talk to
Yeah.
whoever, and then you but yeah, really honing in on that process and capitalizing could definitely, I think, add revenue to everyone's law firm.
I definitely like have some ideas, but so just to go back to like the whole family thing, like when did you know like you not only belong to a family business, but like were meant to carry the whole thing forward and like this was going to be your life's mission type of thing? Like, did you have a moment or was it just like always like that?
Yeah, no, I fought it for, a while. We have
You
two,
did.
two, two other brothers that kind of paved
Yep.
somewhat of the path and kind of showed the way. But yeah, I mean, even up until graduating law school and taking the bar, I was still like, I'm not 100% sure I'm coming to Morgan Morgan. I might go do my own thing. I had some job opportunities with a
Okay.
bigger NBA agent at the time, Mark Cuban.
Awesome.
I
Yeah.
interned with
Yep.
Cuban. I had a job opportunity from him to move to Dallas and do stuff.
Wow.
So I was kind of weighing all that at the same time and going back and forth with it. But yeah, I mean, it kind of came down to just the brand that was already built to be able to walk in and kind of use that as my foundation to keep doing what I wanted to do, and help growing, the firm and the mission. So it wasn't probably really until, 25, 26 when I knew I was all in. I always was around the firm because like I said, I worked there. I was in the call center and all that. But my kind of attitude at that time was I'm going to go off and be the biggest sports agent in the world. I'm not going to
Cool.
be
Yeah.
I'm not going to be a lawyer. I want to be wheeling and dealing and doing that type of stuff. And which luckily now it kind of all worked out where I was able to kind of do both and
Yeah.
still stay in that lane. But yeah, so and then it's really probably once I was at Morgan Morgan, probably like year 3, year 4, I was officially, a partner in one of our firms and really
Yep.
buying in and getting my hands dirty and kind of doing more of the day to day, really building. Like I said, COVID 5, 6 years ago is when I got really tuned in on the ops side of doing all this stuff and the marketing side and really kind of growing it.
Yeah, and it seems like you've kind of made it your own. Like it was, you wanted to do one thing, but you came in, you made it your own, and you're able to do the like the MBA type of stuff alongside with it. So tell me about the $11 million verdict. Was that something that you wanted to tell us about real quick, like the
Oh yeah, I mean it
the
was
wrongful
again
death?
always kind of good cases or sad cases and
Yeah.
bad cases. Again, it was a friend of mine's cousin actually
Wow.
it was in Orlando. It was at this kind of underground pop-up weed party that was going on at this establishment that I guess had been going on for a few months and was known about. But it essentially was, this uh, bunch of people show up, bring weed, sell weed, smoking weed. The tenants all around the place had complained to the landlord, "Hey, every time I'm coming in to my places, everything's smelling like weed." Couple complaints, nothing ever happened. And then eventually, like a week or two later, they had another party. Our guy was there. Someone ran up with a gun, shot up the, kind of
Wow.
somewhat senseless gang, but there's crime grids and all that that show this was a risk. There's obviously no security at this party. There's no precautions. There's no any of that. So we were able to go after the landlord and over the business owner for allowing these parties to go on. It was a sublease situation too. So there's a landlord who was subleasing and then another sublease to the weed guy. And they were kind of saying, well, I didn't know he was doing that. And
Right.
we didn't know. Meanwhile, we have four witnesses. We're like, we called the owner of the building. We're like, this whole place is reeking of weeds. Like, come
Yeah.
do something. Stop this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we were able to kind of show to a jury. Varun Remnaran was our lead counsel on it. But yeah, the family called me the night it happened, so I was kind of on it from day one with the family. We got it with Varun, who leads our premise liability department here in Orlando. And we went and tried the case together. But yeah, we were able to get $11 million verdict.
Wow.
Obviously, defense is appealing, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it was definitely a good day for the Chung family.
Wow. Yeah. So what advice do you give to younger lawyers at your firm that aspire to become like a successful trial attorney?
It's really getting in there and doing every aspect of it of the casework too. Especially we recently launched. I think we're in year 2 or 3 of it. It's another one, kind of the programs I got was called our MAP program, our Mortgage and Associated program, and it was kind of building out an internship program like you see at the Kirkland Ellis law firms. These white collar law firms that have these established internship programs. I remember when I was in law school, like the big deal was to be getting a job offer from one of those firms. And you're talking. I mean, I don't know where it's at now because inflation and everything else. But like back then, like if you were getting a six-figure job offer, like in the 90 to 120 range, you were like made in the shade, and you were top of your class, and you were
Mhm.
off to the races. And kind of thinking those were the best and brightest minds that were going there and doing that, kind of under the guise that that was the best job out there for the money purposes too. And then kind of the paradigm shift that we kind of had was, if we can kind of show these kids the best and the brightest that there's opportunities in plaintiff law and PI law where they can make, a lot more than 120. They might not get it year one, but by year three, they'll be, there. And by year 5, 6, they'll have hopefully add another comma to what
Wow.
they're bringing in and kind of instill them and learn our program, get them in as a 1L lawyer, their 1L summer, do a summer with us, then do a 2L summer with us, and then make our decision at that 2L summer or not if we can get a job offer. And then when they come in, they've already have some time in the Morgan system and they've used our software and they know our lingo and they kind of know our processes that they kind of hit the ground running a little faster than someone that we would. Our old way of hiring was get out of law school, go be a state attorney, go be an insurance defense attorney, do your time for 5, 8 years, then apply to us, and then we'll kind
Right.
of start the program.
Right.
What we learned is they come in with all this, I don't want to say junk, but all these kind of pre-notions of what
Different
case
way.
values
Yep.
are, that herniations are fake, that, bulges are worth less than herniations just because that's just what it is, no rhyme or reason, but herniations worth more, bulges worth less. Surgery cases are worth X, injections. And we pretty much say all that is crap that's been instilled into us by the insurance company because they want us to know what they want us to think a herniation is only worth 25K and a bulge
Mhm.
is only worth 10, and then if there's no surgery there's no way you're gonna get a policy limit tender. And we're able to teach these kids early on, like, that's not true. Here's what a case is worth. Here's what we're getting on injection cases or ablation cases with no surgeries. Here's what we're getting on cases that do have surgeries. Here's what we're getting on a case with, no findings in MRI, that still has facet injuries or bone injuries that are causing pain generators that, a lot of experts say, oh, it's junk science on the defense side. So it's kind of teaching those guys to cut through that. But then, like I was saying before I got to that, but just doing the work and getting in there. I mean, trial experience is where you're going to be a great trial attorney. You're not going to
Yeah.
be giving your opening, your day one, get in there as a fourth chair and just do some osmosis and
Yep.
watch Keith Mitnick, go watch Rick Block, go watch some of the great lawyers that we have more and more, as we always encourage them to do. If you're in Orlando, there's going to be 3 or 4 more and more in trials going every week. So just go sit there and watch them do an opening, watch them
Yeah.
do a closing, watch them do it, and then eventually pick a witness, start with the before and after, start with, um, you know, some doctors are not easier to do, but more somewhat scripted, just where you can kind of go through the medicine with them, just get up there in front of a jury, and get the reps in.
Right.
Again, like I said, I'm more and more, and they're going to have the cases that they're going to get from us. So like that's not, a lot of times we tell lawyers like you're not going to have that issue of your business to worry about. Focus in on the cases, work every step of the case. And when you go to trial and see what happens, you see how all those pieces come together and why your deposition of the radiologist a year before trial is so important, because you either got the key thing you needed or didn't get. And now you're in trial a year later. And Keith Mitnick's like, hey, where the hell is that opinion about the edema? And, oh,
Right. Right.
I didn't ask that. Well, I guarantee you'll ask that question, the rest of your career
Yeah.
after an instance like that happens. So it's really, getting in there, trial by fire, getting the experience. And we kind of see early on the ones that want to do it and want to be in there and want to be kind of the next great, trial attorney,
Okay.
and the ones that are more, and again, there's sometimes where they're great attorneys that we have still in our company, but they might just not be, our first trial litigator. They might go work in our appellate division. They might go to work in our proc liability group, or we have first party
Interesting.
in other
Yeah.
states still. So just, my dad always says, making sure you have the right people in the right positions. And if
Yeah.
they're
No,
not,
totally.
being able to, your shortstop might be a pitcher, he always says. So just put them in the right position.
Interesting. Yeah, totally. Is there like an actual equation, like with you were talking about things being worth like certain things? Is there like an equation, like in certain jurisdictions that you like go for, or try and then try to like appeal to like the jury based on like the facts of the situation? I don't know if I'm making myself clear with that
No,
question.
I think you are. Yeah. I mean, there's not really, for the way we do it, the insurance company has their Colossus, whatever, their software that they kind of input and they get their
Okay.
equations that are spit out. I mean, we really kind of always just look at, obviously, you look at the medicals, those are always going to be a big driver of what your economics are. But the human damages really is what we kind of drive for. It's not, we don't talk about the herniation, tell a jury, the herniation is worth X amount, but here's what the herniation is doing to them. They're not sleeping, they're waking up. I mean, your viewers have heard all this stuff, so I don't want to, belabor it, but it's really just kind of breaking down those human damages of it. And then what is that worth? There's
Yep.
great ones that are out there that I'm sure they've also heard about, the for job posts, if there's a job posted, here's the requirements. You're going to have to, wake up every hour on the hour with back pain. You're going to have to do this, that, and that, right? How much would you want to, for that job, if that was your job every year? Say, well, I wouldn't want $1 million. I want $2 million.
Right. Right.
It's really, and again, we use our own results, so it's easier for us sometimes to negotiate with insurance companies, because they'll say, you're crazy, you'll never get that on this case, and we can say, well, we did, this time, this time, and this time, and this time, and all those times you said we weren't going to get it either. So there's that part of it, to have the kind of the ammo and the backup, and then know you're gonna go to trial. And if you say I'm gonna walk away from $2 million, and go ask for five, that you're really gonna do it. Because if you say that, and then Friday night before trial, you're like, hey, by the way, I want that 2 million still. The next time they come around, they're probably offering you 1.5. The next time they come around, they're
Right.
probably
Right.
until you actually go and do it. But yeah, I mean, the equation really comes down to, obviously the economics, and then the human factors. How old's the person? How long do they have to
Right.
live with it? All those
Right.
type of drivers is where,
Yeah.
um, you
Man, you
kind
know your stuff. I
of,
don't know. It's like you've been around it your whole life or something.
yeah, right. The osmosis thing, and kind of,
Yeah, no, it's great. I love it. I love hearing you talk about it. So like I gotta ask you about the marketing piece because like it's great and it's everywhere and like your dad's in a different like baseball uniform that depending on like the state you go to. But like, do you have like how many market like do you have different like third parties that are doing marketing? Like how does that all work? Like how do you
It's all in house. It's all in house. We kind
okay.
of again just kind of built it out the same way. We built everything. A lot of things that gets things expensive are the agency fees associated with some of these companies. And again, they do, I'm sure there's vendors out there that may even sponsor your show that do great work and that they take a lot of load off lawyers that sometimes it's worth
Yeah, yeah.
them to pay the 10 or 20% or whatever it is to not have to deal with billboard buys or radio buys or TV buys. But my dad just a long time ago did it in-house with his TV and radio. So we've kind of built departments around that. But yeah, I mean, our marketing team is probably close to 100 people now. If you like
Wow.
really
Okay.
go through all the different, we have someone that's over TV, we have someone that's over billboards, and then like even we have a billboard, Trisha Barr runs billboard, but then she has three people under her that are, doing board buys, and we know where all our boards are across America. We have Google
Yeah.
Maps that show us our
It's
coverage,
amazing.
where don't we
Yeah.
have coverage, where do we need coverage? All right, we don't have coverage in this area. Let's uptick our radio so at least we get impressions. It's very CPM driven.
Right.
And then yeah, about around the same time, we weren't. My dad was always kind of anti-sports partnerships
Okay.
until about 5 years ago. We kind of during the COVID time, and as our marketing budget got more, it's kind of how do you get impactful dollars spent and do it the right way. So yeah, we did our first sports partnership. It was like a test with the UFC. He was going
Yep.
back and forth to do it or not. We ended up doing it. The following Monday was our highest volume day in
Wow.
firm history. So we said, hey, this stuff might be working. So we locked
Yep.
up that deal and we started kind of piecing up. And our newer markets we went to, getting some good brand deal. I know you're a Red Sox fan, so that was our first.
New York based. Yeah, it's all confusing, but yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
New York based, but allegiance, and we have the Yankees too, and the Jets.
Yankees, yeah. So
So we have the Yankees and the Jets. But yeah, essentially, we went to Boston,
yep. Seen it.
and yeah, it was our first one we did. We had our share of voice in Boston wasn't great. We kind of launched with the Red Sox. We did stuff now with Wally and this, that, and the other thing.
Yep.
But we just kind of put our name next to that brand, the dad in the uniform, and then it worked. So we just kind of to roll that out to different markets and newer markets that we're in. Now we have, I think, like 8 or 9 baseball, 3 football, couple hockeys, 2 basketball. So we got PBR, WWE. So
It's
now
awesome.
we're like, about a good, eighth or 10th of our budgets going towards sports partnerships.
PBR is in Pabst Blue Ribbon.
I wish, and
No.
as in professional bull riding.
I always wondered what that meant, the other PBR. Like, I never really knew that. I was known for, like, the PBR at UMass. But anyway, so, okay,
Yeah,
that's what that is, professional bull riding. Okay, that's interesting. I
and
mean,
as again, it's a demographic. Like we
yeah,
do stuff with NASCAR as well. We have where is it at?
that's right. That's right.
Got our Kyle Busch car right here
That's
with
awesome. Yeah.
but
Wicked
yeah,
cool.
again, it's just ways to mass market. Again, we have a good footprint that we're everywhere for everyone.
That's it.
So if we're do a Kyle Busch NASCAR wrap and he's racing in Talladega out in Alabama and someone's watching us in Portland, Oregon, they call us, we'll be able to service them. So that's somewhat of the advantage of being able to market at scale where a firm that's really hunkered down and at top of their game and, Toledo, Ohio isn't going to take that jump to do a UFC sponsorship, even if the event's in Toledo, Ohio. They might even do it then for the local exposure, but it's then like how much are they missing out on by what they're getting and not getting? That's what we always have to look at too, like F1 and some of these other leagues we've kind of passed on because we're like, I don't want to pay for all these European eyeballs. It doesn't, I don't
Yeah,
care
it
how,
doesn't pay. Yeah.
yeah, like if someone in France knows who Morgan and Morgan is, I mean, it's cool, but it's not moving the needle at
It's
all.
cool, but it's not moving the needle. That's great. Like, okay, so I want to jump to sports and like what you've been doing there. So you majored in sports management.
Yep.
By the way, I have a couple cousins that went to Stetson Law. But okay, so you majored in sports management. Later became an MBA agent. So like, when did you start getting a passion for being in the sports world?
Yeah, so I mean, my dad had a baseball agency as well. He still
Okay.
does pretty well. They have like 10 or 12 big league guys. Really, they had two first rounders last year, so it's kind of picking up steam in itself. So but I kind of grew up around that a little bit. He
Yep.
started that when I was probably in third, fourth grade. And I just remember him taking me to baseball games to
Yep.
watch the players and him being like, I'm working right now. This is my office today. I'm watching
Yep.
baseball and being like, well, that's cool. That's where I want my office to be.
Yeah. Right.
Sitting in a sports arena and walking to my clients and my players. So that's kind of when I got the bug for it. And then when I was at Florida, I was really close to the basketball team. I was roommates with Chandler Parsons. Went to was
Okay.
close with Nick Calathis during high school and stuff. So when I got to Florida, I kind of had a built-in friend group with those guys. So
Was Al Horford there? No, that was
Al Horford just got out, yeah. So
okay.
right,
All
so
right.
Joakim, Horford, Brewer, those guys were all always around. So
Okay.
they're always around Gainesville, but they were in the NBA by the time
Gotcha. Okay.
I got there. But yeah, again, I was seeing all those players that were coming and going. I was hanging out with them, and I was seeing the deals they were getting. Like Joe Kim signed a
Yep.
$12 million deal, and I'm thinking, well, shit, that agent fee on that, that guy's making,
Yo, Kim, let me
400.
see that contract for a second. I bet I
Exactly.
yeah, right.
So I just kind of got in that world around it, and then when Chandler got drafted to the Rockets,
Hmm.
I kind of got globbed on with his agent at the time, or at that time I was working with Mark Cuban when he was on the
Yep.
Rockets, and I helped negotiate a deal when Chandler went to the Dallas Mavs with Mark Cuban because I was interning for Mark at the time.
It's awesome.
So I
Yeah.
was able to kind of broker this deal where we signed the contract. You can Google it, but we signed it in a nightclub in Orlando at like 12:30 a.m. Like
It's
the day
awesome.
the free agency opened. I
Okay.
like kind of backdoored a deal and had it done, and more like significantly higher than what he was getting on the table. And his agent at the time, Dan Fagan, was like, I want you to come work for me next summer,
Wow.
And then so I went and did that in LA, was around it. Like I said, by the end of it, I had two job opportunities to go and do both. Um, and my dad kind of convinced me, come work at Morgan and Morgan. If you want to build it like I built my baseball agency, you can moonlight, do it, own it yourself, don't have a non-compete. That's what Dan Fay wanted me to sign, was pretty much if I worked for
Yeah.
him, I'd have a non-compete. So if I ever left, I had pretty much not be an agent for 3 years. My
Yeah.
dad's like, that's just a death sentence in the business. You'll have to start all over. You lose all your clients. It's
True.
just, he's locking you in. So I did it on my own, tried it for like 5, 6 years, chased a lot of players, traveled around a lot of places, lost a lot of money, and finally was kind of like no moss, and kind of had a few G League players and international guys, and kind of
Okay.
walked away from it at that time. And then was doing a podcast, sponsoring a podcast for Mike Miller about three
Yep.
years ago, 2 years ago. We were chopping it up about it, and after the show, he's like, "Man, you would have been a great agent. You should have tried to be an agent." And I was like, "I did try to do it." At that time, he had his agency was up and going already. He had
Yep.
just signed like Paulo Banchero before they got the contract, so I was
Nice.
able to kind of negotiate a deal with him where he brought me in to the ownership side of the company. I was able to kind of keep my agency juices flowing. So I'm a part of that now. Yeah, like I said, we have Paulo Banchero who just signed his Supermax deal,
Awesome.
so it's
Yeah.
like a $560 million contract.
Yep.
We got Jeremiah Fears in the draft last year. We had Noah
Okay.
SQ in the draft last year. And this year's
Jeremiah,
draft,
that's crazy. I think I put him in my 5 cent DFS FanDuel lineup tonight
there we go.
or last night. That's hilarious. All right, and I just like I heard of him. Like I read about him on like some.
Yes.
That's
I
great.
unfortunately can't dabble in
All
the
right. Well.
basketball betting or drift. It's all the Chauncey Billups stuff, so I'm not going to give you any
Oh yeah.
names.
No.
I'm
No. No. I'm
not
just.
giving you any thumbs up or thumbs down if that
Yeah,
was a
look,
good.
I really believe in myself as I threw that nickel into FanDuel today.
All
Yeah. No,
my
that's
players always give double thumbs ups to, though. No matter
that's wicked.
no matter the day.
That's so that's wicked cool. Like I always wondered, like so Banchero, like would he be like, hey, you should go talk to Dan, like he'll help you out. Like, do you think he'd say that to like one of his teammates, like a rookie or something, and then they come to you?
I've represented four of Paulo's friends and
Okay.
family in car accidents. So yeah, that
Oh,
happens
so
all.
that okay, all
I
right.
mean, that happens all the time. But yeah, I mean, as far as the word of mouth referrals for the sports agency stuff too, yeah, I mean, that's the word of mouth game. He obviously went to Duke, good pipeline to get
Yeah.
into.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of that. That's like right now, I'm not Anthony Edwards' agent, but I'm his lawyer.
Oh, cool.
So I review all his contracts. I actually reviewed his agent contract. I
Awesome.
negotiated that for him and his points on that and what he pays his agent. And anytime he gets endorsement deal or something, and he kind of just forwards it to me as a second set of eyes to make sure words like perpetuity get crossed out.
Right, right, right. That's that's awesome. That's super cool. He's like a obviously an all-star. He was on
Oh
the
yeah, it's been
Team
again.
USA. I mean,
That was a guy. Another. I got a phone call from a guy that married one of my friend's sisters. Said, I'm a manager. I have a kid. He's at Georgia. He's getting drafted next year. Can you help me out? I was like, well, who is it? He's like, it's Anthony Edwards. I was pretty much like, drop the phone. And I was like, hey, I just want to help you out. I'm trying to be an agent right now. I'll do all this stuff pro bono, and then we'll figure it out as it goes
yeah,
on. So, now it's all worked out well for him. Anthony will be, Anthony and Paula both could, Anthony should be the first, and Paula should be the second. They'll be the first players to make $1 billion on court, not on endorsements and all that, but actually from NBA contracts.
yeah,
By the time they're
yeah,
out of the league, we'll have $1 billion in contracts. So
yeah. Panchero's having like a good season right now already.
yeah, he's starting off hot. He's starting good. The fans can be a little ruthless sometimes in Orlando.
Yeah,
As soon as we get a little bit of success, we want the championship immediately. But
yeah,
I'm a Magic fan. I'm in Orlando, so
yeah.
it's a good player to have. But then I always have to like bark back at the fans. Hey, it's a good shot.
I
Like,
think
hey,
you
he's
guys,
trying his best.
yeah, you guys got you got a good young team, man. I mean, that's I
Yeah,
think you're
yeah.
pretty.
Bane's been a great
Yeah.
addition.
Oh, dude, Bane is great. Bane put up some numbers last
Oh
year.
yeah, 3 and D. Yeah, he's like 40% career shooter.
Yeah,
So
he's really good actually. So like, do you think most agents are lawyers too?
yeah, I mean, it was for a while. Now it's kind of the Wild West is kind of set into the NBA and agent world with the
Yeah,
NIL stuff where that was a requirement for a while. If you weren't a lawyer, you had to like wave in and show why you were worthy enough to be an agent without being a lawyer.
right.
So like the first, like Mike Miller wasn't an agent at first either for that reason. Now he's able to be an agent because they kind of taken a lot of those guidelines off of what it is. Now you just have to be licensed by the NBA PA and pass the test and keep up your credentials, kind of like CLEs. You have to kind of keep
Yeah,
doing those. But it definitely is an upper advantage for them because now everyone's an agent.
it's competitive. It's
Dads are
competitive.
becoming agents and cousins are agents. My best
Yeah,
friend is the agent. But yeah, it's able to at least say, or are you a lawyer? All right, well, you're going to have to at least hire a lawyer. At Lyft, we're able to say, Dan Morgan's an owner. They have the largest injury law firm in America. So you're covered in all 50 states. You're covered,
yeah,
the first call you can make is to us and we can at least get it situated. So it's definitely an upper advantage. And other agencies have in-house lawyers like the big dogs, CAA and William Morris and all the Clutch. They have great in-house legal teams, but they're not, full service legal teams where they're going to be calling other people and other firms and other things like that. So I would
yeah.
definitely say if you're a player, and you're going to hire a person that's not a lawyer, hire a good lawyer to make sure he's reviewing your agent
Oh
contract
yeah,
and everything
definitely.
else he's doing because now it's a little easier too. You can like split points and things like that. 'Cause a lot of times they want to make sure their dad's getting paid or their cousin's getting paid or whoever. So you can say, hey, he can get a management fee of 2 points, 1 point, and we're going to take the rest and actually do the heavy lifting on the contract negotiation. Then you can see
Right.
players that have agents and don't have agents, and they get kind of taken to the woodshed unless you're like a true max player.
Yeah. Wow. Totally. That's wild. So, what's your favorite like sport to go see?
To go see, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's nothing really better than like a courtside basketball game. I
Yeah.
feel like that's the ultimate fan experience. But I'm
Totally.
a season ticket holder for the Bucks, so you
Okay.
know, going over
Yeah,
to
the
Raymond
Bucks. Yeah.
James and making that voice, and we're having a good year. I was a season ticket holder for I think I'm on like my 17th year now. So we had like 14, 13 years of just no playoffs, pain after pain. Probably went through like 38
Man, you
quarterbacks.
had Brady for a while. Like, what
And
was
then we
that
got
like?
Brady. That's
Yeah,
what I
what
was
was
gonna
that
say.
like? You had our
And then we
boy. It
and
was
then it
like,
was like it was the best like that was God rewarding me for my 13 years of driving to Tampa and seeing us
did
lose
you go to the
after.
Super Bowl that year?
Oh yeah, it was
Yeah.
COVID year too. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
not. I was actually recruiting a kid in Baton Rouge that I
Yeah.
didn't get. I flew home during COVID on like an empty Spirit plane. And was
Empty
in it,
spirit.
it was, it was in
Oh
Raymond James for
man.
the game in like a 1/3, one quarter filled stadium, but saw him win.
Man, I every time I see him in that Bucks uniform, I'm like, You're still one of us, man. You're still a patriot. Always a patriot.
I got to sign Brady's Bucks jersey in my gym at home.
Oh, that's awesome,
I
man.
also have a big Poppy jersey though too.
Okay, there you go. There you
Yeah.
go. So, um, what? Just one more question. What was your favorite like advertising moment, like commercial or anything? Do you have like a favorite one that like sticks out in your mind?
I mean, they always say, you always remember your first time, right? I mean, that's probably the first time I was on. They brought me in, it was kind of it was the whole family was on there. We've been doing these commercials, yada yada, and then I kind of come on at the end, like, and now it's my time to finally say for the people,
Yeah.
and kind of bringing it together. So I think all the times we have the whole family in the mix, those have always been fun.
Yep.
But yeah, recently, really, more recently though, we've been doing. Again, I'm getting my dad more into the sports marketing and the
Yeah.
NIL stuff. So, just last week, it'll be releasing sometime I think in December. We just did a commercial shoot with John Daly and his
Oh,
son,
cool.
up in Arkansas, all of us on a golf course. So like
Oh man.
it's like me and my brothers, John and his son, we're like, having a good time on the course. The commercial is pretty much like, what's it like hiring Morgan and Morgan? It's like having John Daly be your scramble partner, just
Yeah, that's great.
sinking putts and bombing drives and stuff like that. So that was definitely fun. But yeah, all
Oh,
these
that's
NIL
awesome.
ones have been a blast. I've done stuff with the University of Kentucky. I was up in Knoxville filming with Nate Ahmed at Tennessee, who's also a Lyft client. So it's always good when you
Yep.
can kind of combine those worlds as well. But so yeah, I mean, all the recent stuff's been super fun. And then obviously like the UFC, the WWE, really breaking those barriers and doing, those stuff I kind of dreamed about as a kid, being like a
Yep.
third grader watching WWE, being like, one day Morgan's gonna be advertising there. And then now I'm
Yep.
like doing promos with Charlotte Flair and
It's crazy.
Liv Morgan, it's
Yeah.
definitely surreal.
That's crazy. Well, congrats on all your success. So, like, is there anything you want to share with the Lawyer Stories community, or anything you want to say? Any advice?
No, yeah, I mean, definitely. I want everyone to know that I'm accessible. D Morgan at forthepeople.com. That's my email. Instagram, D Morgan ESQ. But, like I said, I'm leading the referrals, inbound, outbound. If you're looking to either send cases, get cases, see how we can work, pick my brain. I've had people come and look at our call center. I'm in Orlando. I'll go to New York a
Awesome.
bunch. I'm
Yeah.
zipping around to different states and different things. So just drop me a line, let me know where you're at, where your city is, and if I have a trip planned or you want to get together or whatever, we can get coffee or lunch or something on the book. So I definitely try to grow the network. I got one of my basketball mentors, they're called the Pump Brothers, but they taught me a long time ago that your network is your net worth. So keep growing your network, and your net worth will follow. So that's what I try to do.
I hear that. All right, Dan Morgan, thanks so much, man. It was awesome to get to know you. Stay right there. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in. Wherever you are in the world today, enjoy yourselves. Cheers.